here's a question for you. What if, because the Super Bowl was just yesterday, so this is why I was thinking this. What if
Right.
WWE gets a huge money rights fee to put WrestleMania, or at least, well, no, yeah, but to put WrestleMania on broadcast television, like a Fox, like an ABC, like an NBC, or like a CBS?
I think that'd be huge, but I think they would be forced to run commercials to kind of make it profitable.
Right.
Do something like that. I mean, even have something like a halftime show. I mean, they've done it in the past. They've had like Pitbull and stuff perform, but you right. And I was at that. So they tricked us, by the way. They tricked us by putting the cameras all through the crowd so that we would dance for the cameras, but they used none of those shots. The camera wasn't even on. So just so you know, if we looked excited for Pitbull, that was why.
Gotcha.
But anyway, yeah, they have to do a couple things, and then that goes back to maybe, I've heard the rumors of the 2-day WrestleMania. Could it make sense then? Because then you have commercials, you'd have two events on a Sunday, a Saturday and a Sunday, I should say. I don't know. I mean, it could make sense. I mean, I think WWE is making some moves so that their business model is not so antiquated. I know we got some other news to talk about in regards to that. So I would be excited to kind of see where they go from here in regards to that. Yeah, I've had people. I dated a girl, I'll never forget. I went to WrestleMania 28. And she was messaging me. She was like, "Hey, where do I watch WrestleMania? Is it on TV?" I was like, "No, it's on pay-per-view." And she almost didn't understand. She thought,
Right.
"Oh, this is the Super Bowl of wrestling." I thought it'd be on broadcast TV. So perhaps you're correct in thinking that would be a good idea.
I mean, it would for sure. I'm going to look something up while we talk here, but it would for sure bring in a lot of new eyes. And I hope with WWE getting commercials during the Super Bowl last night, I hope that helps maybe a little bit. I don't know how much it's going to help, because once the actual Super Bowl itself started, I maybe saw 1 or 2 SmackDown commercials opposed to like 5 during the pre-show.
Yeah,
But-
random tidbit on the AEW end of things. AEW had a full page ad on the second page or the first page, I should say, once you flipped over from the cover of the Super Bowl program, which is
Dave
kind of
Meltzer
crazy.
reported that last week in the Observer. Basically, you open it, the backside of the cover had like Garoppolo and what's the Chiefs quarterback? I'm not the biggest football fan.
Yeah, I mean, either, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mahomes
Someone in
on
the
it.
chat hit us up. Yeah, Mahomes. Patrick
Mahomes on it. And then, boom! The first thing you see, if you don't look at the back of the cover, there's AEW. It's the basic poster we've seen since the announcement of Dynamite. But still,
Right, that's still huge. I mean, that must have cost a pretty penny to get that done.
Unless Tony Khan knows somebody, since he's got his
he owns the Jags. Yeah, but still, even then, even if he got a little discount, I'm sure that was still a lot of money. Yeah.
So I was trying to see what the Super Bowl did in the ratings, just to compare, like, hey, this is, compare that to a normal football game. And then compare, like, what Raw usually does to what a what a WrestleMania can do on, broadcast television. But apparently, for some reason, I don't know why, the ratings are delayed right now.
Right. I mean, that's to tell you they're probably counting all of them, in terms of the apps and everything. But to say, and people in the chat right now are saying Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes were at the Super Bowl. So were Triple H and Stephanie. So was Baron Corbin. A lot of people were at the Super Bowl last night, just a heads up. But, to talk about that point, I think 10 years ago, I wouldn't have agreed with the WrestleMania being on network TV for the simple reason that, at that time, pay-per-views were still a big thing. Streaming wasn't as big. But now in today's world, especially since they've, like I said, arguably diminished the value of the pay-per-views by putting them on the network, I think it would actually make WrestleMania a bigger deal, a huge deal if you put it Sunday, 7 o'clock on Fox, give it the same treatment as a Super Bowl. I mean, we all call it, I've said it before, but we call it the Super Bowl of wrestling.
Right.
So treat it as the Super Bowl of wrestling. And I think, like you said, we'll get a lot of new fans into the professional wrestling business, which is can do nothing but good.
So if you look at the ratings for I got the ratings here for the Super Bowl for the last decade.
Right.
Last year's was the lowest of the decade at 98.2 million viewers. Their peak,
the lowest. Listen to that.
Their peak was in 2015. I don't know what game that was. It was 114.4 million viewers watched the Super Bowl. And so even if WWE can do half of that with putting WrestleMania, or a quarter of that with putting WrestleMania on Fox or NBC or something.
Right.
I mean, that's going to bring in a good amount of viewers as long as that's a good WrestleMania that'll be like, I see this. Wait, there's other shows I can watch. Granted, maybe they don't get cable. You can still go, okay, well, there's a show on Friday on Fox. That's a good idea. Let me check that out.
And there's the network for $10 a month, which is not a huge cost to people. So I mean, it would only do nothing but good. I mean, in today's world, that's just a big advertisement. And also WrestleMania, let's be honest, there's a lot of part-timers that show up at WrestleMania. So even the most jaded fan might be like, hey, there's The Rock, there's Batista, there's Stone Cold, there's Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And try to check out what the new guys are all about. So I think all in all signs point to it being a good idea.
And like you alluded to earlier, though, they're going to have to run commercials. And the interesting thing will be, how would those commercials play out? Would they have to cut away during matches, or would they be able to run a match, run a 3-minute set of commercials, run a match or two, 3-minute set of commercials? That would be the other interesting thing is, if you're watching a WrestleMania, you don't want it to cut out randomly in the middle of a match, especially if it's the 2 or 3 top matches of the show.
So I would actually argue that it might be a good thing for the simple reason that what's the biggest thing? I think we talked about this on last week's episode. What's the biggest thing about WrestleMania that people don't like? It's how long it is. So if you put little breaks in between, I think it would actually help. And I mean, it does nothing for the live crowd, but it would help people kind of recharge their energy, go use the bathroom, go grab some nachos, come back. Do what they need to do, as opposed to having to sit and focus their whole attention. Because let's be honest, in today's world, someone during the middle of the match anyways, picking up their phone, they're looking at something else, they're kind of recharging in a different way. So at least this would be a good thing for WWE. And then it would help viewers at home not have to feel like they're just watching a match for 20 minutes. So I don't think it would actually be a bad thing.
Right. I mean, I get where you're coming from, where people need a little bit of a break in between. But I just don't know, especially if it's like, say, last year's WrestleMania. If it was Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte versus Becky, do you really want them to cut out during that match? The main
Absolutely.
event?
I was tired during that match. I'll tell you that, because I was actually at the event. That match went on after midnight. Yeah. So I mean, there's an argument there, because I also feel like, what we're not considering in the TV production end of things is that it would force them to be quicker with things. So it would force them to kind of like, instead of a 25-minute match, you would have to say, okay, you're getting 15 minutes. There's a 2-minute commercial in between. This is where you're going. This is what we have to do. So now the pace is a lot more frenetic. And if anybody, is sitting here, if y'all remember the Attitude Era, the frenetic pace of the Attitude Era is kind of what made it popular, not just because of the adult-themed storylines. So I think it would actually help the energy of a WrestleMania, in my opinion. And then also during the match, you can cut away. You don't just have to show commercials. Remember, also, they can do picture-in-picture.
Correct.
Something we're not considering. They can do picture-in-picture. It doesn't take away from the match, and you get your advertisements in. So,
because I know Fox and both NBC are not against picture-in-picture, because they do it for NASCAR races.
Exactly.
And so, which is kind of weird that we don't see Fox do it for SmackDown when they cut away during a match.
Yeah.
Because we did see USA do it for SmackDown, and we had heard the rumor of, this is just a practice for SmackDown when they go to Fox if they want to do picture-in-picture, and we haven't seen that. So, like you said, there's the ability of picture-in-picture as well, but at the same time, if say the Super Bowl went picture-in-picture, and you're paying $5.6 million for your commercial to run for 30 seconds, do you really want the picture-in-picture there, where people are not paying attention to your commercial? They're possibly paying attention to the game still. Because I can't remember, I think it may have been NASCAR in the Daytona 500 a few years ago. I had read something where they were charging a lot for commercials. Fox was able to do that. But they were charging a reduced price if your commercial was going to air during a picture-in-picture time.
Right.
Because with NASCAR, they do have the breaks with the caution flags and all that, where they cut away and it's full screen commercials. But a lot of times, if they cut away during the action of the race while they're still green and on the track, they'll go picture in picture. So they did do a thing that I read where Fox was giving people a discounted rate on the commercials because, people may not be 100% paying attention to your commercial.